Next topic, You My Chick-fil-A. It's a song, closed on Sunday, You My Chick-fil-A. Hold the selfies, put the gram away, get your family. You all hold hands and pray. When you got daughters, always keep them safe. Watch out for vipers, don't let them indoctrinate. Closed on Sunday, You My Chick-fil-A. You're my number one with the lemonade. Raise our sons, train them in the faith. Through temptations, make sure they're wide awake. Follow Jesus, listen and obey. No more living for the culture, we nobody's slave. Stand up for my home, even if I take this walk alone. I bow down to the King upon the throne. My life is his, I'm no longer my own. I pray to God that he'll strengthen my hand. That's from Kanye West's recent album, Jesus is King, and it's a whole song dedicated to the countercultural boldness of a massively successful but ever controversial fast food chain in the US, Chick-fil-A. And he holds up Chick-fil-A as an example of countercultural, faith-centered strength, which he wants his own children to model. He wants the ability to take into his own family and to give them the strength to be able to do that, to follow God, to bow down to the King on the throne, not the God of this culture. And for those who don't know, Chick-fil-A was founded by a devout Christian, a guy called Truett Cathy. And from the beginning, it has had a very strong Christian ethos. Even as the company's grown into a great multi-billion-dollar success story, all Chick-fil-A restaurants close on Sunday, they play Christian music inside, they bear the mission statement to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that he has entrusted to us, and the company gives very generously and famously to many Christian and conservative causes. They will distribute $32 million in charitable cash donations in the year 2020. But it's that last point there, the giving, that has caused great controversy, and also the ethos, because in 2012, the chairman and CEO, who is Dan Cathy, voiced his support for traditional marriage, and the company gives to charities who are avowedly Christian, who have conservative and Christian views on things like marriage, gender, sexuality, and other social, moral issues. And the pressure on Chick-fil-A has just never let up. Because of this thing that Dan Cathy said, because of their ethos and their Christianity, there's been protest activity, there have been attempts at secondary boycotts, there's been hostile PR coming through thick and fast for some years now. LGBT activists and what the Americans call the cultural left have been sort of against Chick-fil-A. And most recently, here's some of the things that have happened, that the restaurant has actually been banned from the city of Boston by the former mayor Thomas Menino. It's been blocked from opening a restaurant in Chicago O'Hare International Airport. San Antonio Airport have also blocked them from opening a restaurant. The Buffalo Airport in New York, the city of San Jose, California has pledged not to renew Chick-fil-A's lease. In Canada, they've got a store in Toronto, and there's been protest activity there. You can imagine Canada's probably a particularly tough market for a Christian conservative group. Despite all that pressure, though, and indeed more than I've been able to say here, they are in fact closed every Sunday, and that takes away what? 1/7 of their revenue, theoretically, but Chick-fil-A has gone from strength to strength. It was a $1 billion business in 2001. In 2013, it had grown 5 times to a $5 billion business, doubled again to 2019, a $10.5 billion business. It is the 5th largest restaurant chain in the US, but individual stores are more profitable than any other fast food outlet in the entire country. So individual Chick-fil-A stores, more profitable than McDonald's stores. But this bastion of countercultural strength seems to have faltered. Last week, the company announced changes to its charitable giving. They're no longer going to give to a range of charities, including the Salvation Army and the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, both avowedly Christian in their position on the aforementioned social issues. Although the Salvation Army were quick to clarify, look, we do charity for everybody, and they gave examples of that. Not good enough, apparently. The Chief Operating Officer, Tim Tassopoulos, seemed to refer to the controversies that I just referred to when he tried to explain the change. He said, as we go into new markets, we need to be clear about who we are. Sounds ominous, and the news hit people hard because there are so many Christian people and others in America who have supported Chick-fil-A through thick and thin. It's become a real sort of rallying point for people who want to stand against the culture, as Kanye says. He was playing into a real phenomenon there. And they help them be this success story. And I actually go to Chick-fil-A every time I go to America, which is roughly once a year for the last little while. And I always go to a Chick-fil-A restaurant and get some waffle fries. They're great. But I was also, therefore, disappointed to see this. And the reality is activists are never going to be happy. until every last skerrick of Christianity is taken away from Chick-fil-A. A tiny change in their giving program is not going to make anyone happy. And this is what the Bible says, Romans 1. Where's it all going to end? It's going to end in a demand for affirmation, and that demand will continue to come until we have no more affirmation to give. That explains a lot of what's going on in the culture now. Tolerance isn't enough. Live and let live isn't enough. It's got to be affirm, affirm, affirm. Same deal here. It's not going to work. But there's a lot of people will be aware of everything that I've said up until this point, roughly. But what you may not know is that Franklin Graham contacted the CEO, Dan Cathy, and just said, look, mate, what's going on? And he reported the conversation he had with Dan Cathy on Twitter. He said, Dan was very clear that they have not bowed to anyone's demands, including the LGBTQ community. They will continue to support whoever they want to support. They haven't changed who they are or what they believe. Chick-fil-A remains committed to Christian values. Dan Cathy assured me that this isn't going to change. I hope all who jumped to the wrong conclusion about them read this. He then adds this, which I think is certainly true, as I just said. In my opinion, the gay movement wouldn't ever be happy with Chick-fil-A unless they were to open on Sunday, gave all their charitable donations to LGBTQ organisations, and flew the rainbow flag over their stores. Their hatred for Chick-fil-A is rooted in founder Truett Cathy's strong stand for biblical traditional values and his desire to honour God. Now, that's what Franklin Graham has said on Twitter. It gives me some comfort, although why was it explained the way that it was by the COO? And why now? Why do it after all this time? It doesn't add up, and there's been no official statement from Chick-fil-A and the supporters are asking for that to happen. So there's unanswered questions about this. It looks like, even if it's a small capitulation, it looks like a little bit of wobble in Chick-fil-A because of the pressure that they've been under. Maybe that's wrong. Let's wait and see. But I say all this to make a point. I say all this to make this point. It's been convicting me of late that there's so few people who are really prepared to leave their success in life to God. I do wonder whether Chick-fil-A's spectacular rise, I wonder whether or not it has in fact partly been God's hand on them, because of Truett Cathy, and he only died recently in 2014, and because of the strong stand that they've taken for so long. That success story has been unlike another fast food outlet in the US. It's been incredible. And I look at people, great heroes of the faith like Daniel, for example. And you look at Daniel, and he could have done so much to ensure his own success in that apprenticeship program with the king, where he was going to serve in the king's household. And, he was looking at his life, and he could have taken that into his hands and said, yep, I know my plan, I know my path, I know what I've got to do. But a day came in which a test came. A bit of pressure to capitulate, to bow down, to bend, to, as Kanye would say, bow down to the God of this culture and not serve the king upon the throne. That day came a couple of times for Daniel, well, more than a couple. And see, Daniel made the right choice every time. And he didn't keep his success in his own hands. He didn't try and plan his tomorrow. He said, I serve God. And he served God at ludicrous cost. And yet God saw it. And the ludicrous cost didn't necessarily come for Daniel in the long term. His career as an advisor to 5 Babylonian kings, and it's significant that this is in Babylon, in a pagan culture, his service to 5 Babylonian kings was a legacy that was unmatched. And it's because God saw what Daniel did. And that was in many key respects the first day of the rest of his life. And God remained with him. How many of us are really prepared in this Babylonian time, so to speak, to let God plan the future and to put our trust in him and to bow down to the king upon the throne and not be a slave to culture? It's really important, especially to you young people who are listening to this. It's a lesson I've had to learn in life. It's not up to me. It isn't my plan. It's God's plan. He'll take care of the rest. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, then make sure to hit the like button. If you want to never miss another video again, make sure to subscribe, or you can right now watch more videos right here. Cheers.